Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Facebook. We said we're going to start at 9 a.m. And I'm coming to you at 8:37 a.m. So we are very early, but we want. I know that a lot of you are interested in this program this morning, and so I wanted you to be able to share. This is important what is happening. We have two wonderful speakers who are going to be coming on, and they'll be sharing their, not just speaking, but sharing their art with us. We're sharing music, we're sharing poetry, we're sharing spoken word, lots of creativity this morning. So we're going to ask you to share. Come on and share. I let me just check to see who is on. If there's anybody on just yet, we want you to get ready. As I told somebody yesterday, get a piece of sweet bread, not a big piece, but get a piece of sweet bread and get going, right? Yeah. Get a piece of sweet bread and get going. I'm here trying to find my live, and I'm not seeing it. I know I'm live on Facebook, so I'm here trying to find my live. Where's my live? Yeah. But if you're watching, please let's use this time to share with others. Let them know what is going on, that we are on. So there are 4 persons on at this time. Good morning. Good morning. Can you comment, please, so I can know exactly who is there? Where are you from? Where are you watching from? Is that Valerie Brown? Yes. And Nicole Walton Thompson. I know who that is. Hi, good morning. Nicole, where are you now? Are you in Canada? Valerie Brown, good morning. Yes, we are all ready to go share. And while we are waiting on these wonderful speakers to come on, we just want to share some of their work with you. And so at this time, I'm going to share one of the Mighty Gabby songs. I call this a protest song. All right. Let me get that ready for you. Let me work that out for you.
Was it necessary to hire them soldier jokers to out a fire? No, 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 no. Was it right to get them weapons they claim was unloaded to shoot Vincentians? No, 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 no. Well, don't tell me, tell Norman he sent them to Vinci land, gun in the hand, making a stand to quell a non-existent rebellion with all them boots, boots, boots and more boots. On the feet of young trigger happy recruits, I see them boots, boots, boots and more boots. Marching, threatening army troops. Tell Tom I say that what done do. We got to see, but me and you, and most of all little children, and stop them soldiers from marching. Left, right, the government boots, the government boots. Left, right, the government boots, the government boots. Left, right, we afford to feed that army while so many children naked and hungry? No, 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 no. Can we afford to remain passive while that soldier army growing so massive? No, 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 no. Well, don't tell me, Mash Tommy Heels, he giving them 4 square meals. Some of them so fat, they could hardly run, but they shooting bullseye with automatic gun. With all them boots, boots, boots and more boots on the feet of young trigger happy recruits. I see them boots, boots, boots and more boots, marching, threatening army troops. Tell Tom I said that wouldn't do. He got to see but me and you, and most of all you children, and stop them soldiers from marching. Left, right, in the government boots, the government boots. Left, right, in the government boots, the government boots. Left, right, in the government boots, the government boots. Left, right, in the government boots. I hear them boots, boots, boots and more boots on the feet of young trigger happy recruits. I see them boots, boots, boots and more boots.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. We have another one coming up for you.
I grew up bathing in seawater, but nowadays that is the horror. If I only venture down by the shore, police telling me I can't bathe no more, 'cause Jack don't want me to bathe on my beach. Jack, tell them to kick me out of reach. Jack, tell them I will never make the grade. Strength and security, bill barricade. That can happen here in this country. I want Jack to know that the beach belong to me. That can happen here over my dead body. Tell Jack that I say that the beach belong to me. Look, the beach is mine. I could bathe anytime. Despite what he say, I can bathe anywhere. The beach is mine. I could bathe anytime. Despite what he say, I can bathe anywhere. Tourism vital, I can't deny, but can't mean more than I and I. My naval strength, very right here, but a tourist one could be anywhere. Yet Jack don't want me to bathe on my beach. Jack, tell them to kick me out of reach. Jack, tell them I will never make the grade. Strength and security, bill barricade. That can happen here in this country. I want Jack to know that the beach belong to me. That can happen here over my dead body. Tell Jack, Gabby say that the beach belong to me. The beach is mine. I could bathe anytime. Despite what he say, I can bathe anywhere. The beach is mine. I could bathe anytime. Despite what he say, I can bathe anywhere. to know that the bitch belong to we. That can't happen here over my dead body. Tell me, got Jack Gabby say that the bitch belong to we. That bitch is mine, I could pay it anytime. Despite what they say, I got paid anyway. That bitch is mine, I could pay it anytime. Despite what they say, I got paid anyway. If I can't pay there, tell me who can. Well, after all, I is Bajan. And if they ban me from my beach land, I hope they see can't wear the sun. Cause Jack don't want me to bed on my beach. Jack, tell them to kick me out of reach. Jack, tell them I will never make the grade. Hear him? And for security, build barricade. That can happen here in this country. I want Jack to know that the bitch belong to me. That can happen here over my dead body. Tell me, got Jack Gabby say that the bitch belong to me. That bitch is mine, I could pay it anytime. Despite what they say, I got paid anyway. That bitch is mine, I could pay it anytime. Despite what they say, I got paid anyway.
Little boy, where you going?
I got up on the bed.
But you can't go down there, Jackson. Can't be down there.
Yeah, you're the idiot hour. Let me tell Jack something here. Like, my mother bed there, my father bed there, my sister bed there, my brother bed there, my uncle bed there, and I got bed there. That beach is mine. That beach is mine. That beach is mine. Mine not only mine. That beach is mine. That beach is mine. That beach is mine, 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 mine not only mine. That beach is mine. I got bed anytime, anytime.
Oh my goodness. Oh my Lord. Can you hear the protest in that song? It's just driving, driving, driving. Let me stop this other one from playing. But the protest in that song, I am just energized listening to that song. That's a powerful song. We're going to talk about that a little later. But as I promised you, I have some material also from Adrian Green, who is a notable poet here, spoken word artist here in Barbados, activist, actor. Oh my goodness, so very talented. So we're going to share a little bit from Adrian with you at this time, and they're waiting to come up, and we're going to ask you to speak. We're going to ask you to share. If you're waiting for them to come on, we ask you to share. Let people know that they're going to be on in a couple minutes. All right, and ask them to share. Important that we do that. Okay, that we ask people to share. So I'll give you some time to do that. So here is Adrian Green, Mr. Adrian Green. Very, very amazing artist here in Barbados, fantastic actor, and spoken word artist, and an activist. And here he is with a very almost there. It's coming up. With a very, very, very powerful piece that is coming up right now. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you to continue sharing. We're working on it to make sure that you can see that this morning. Where are you? You're right here, right? Yes. So we're ready to go.
Don't fool yourself, people. We season deep. Every time them used to pepper we with the whip, they would slip salt into the wounds just so that we would keep preserved in a state of fear and paranoia like sheep. Boy, you think it's sweet? Don't fool yourself, people, we season deep. So deep the seasoning of slavery may be impossible to taste, but it's there. You could feel as free as a bumblebee, but actually you are confined like a corpse in a grave if you don't understand how the enslaved are turned into slaves. On August 23rd each year, we pause to remember the transatlantic slave trade. But even though they ended the trade in slaves, remember that slavery continues across the world today in many ways, from human trafficking to wage slavery to slave mentalities that remain from the old-time days, manifesting in the way we think and behave today. You thought you was free to just be? Cause you don't see that slavery has outlasted the chains. But if we really want to see change, then we got to get this in with brains. We got to understand that you can capture a man and put him in chains, but then you got to work on his brain to turn him into a slave. And once we overs how a slave is really made, it's gonna be action time again. They got multinational corporations with more loose change than the GDP of the entire country. And they investing their money into media vehicles which capture the minds of the fickle, salt and pickle them in brine for preservation, so that once they're locked in, logged on and tuned into the enslaving station, you could talk chalk, them ain't left in the plantation. That is the reason that the mission of our cultural organizations must be to build a cultural foundation for the further emancipation of the people and a national cultural psychological resistance to colonization 2.0. Say no. From Bussa to Tucson, tall past Clement Payne, reminding us again and again and again that they might have had we one time, but not all the time. So every season of emancipation, we should be able to look back upon the year and see how much we grow. The systems of slavery that driving we must lose momentum and slow. And going into first, second, part, reverse, we reach the point of no return. With some energy to burn and a race to run. It gonna be action time again. And it gotta be collective action. Even if we got different factions, everybody got their own little fraction to hold down. And in every nook and cranny and corner and town, they gotta be singing one song, because it's one song that we want and one song that we must get. But even though we holding together strong, we must be able to tell one another when we're wrong.
Wow, I mean, powerful, powerful, so applicable to what is happening right now. Okay, so something is happening here. So we just wanna, I mean, that is just simply awesome, simply awesome. And we know people, we haven't started officially yet. People are still logging on and sharing, and we're asking you to share to everybody. And we're gonna be starting very, very soon. I know Dave wasn't scheduled to come on, but I want Dave, my husband Dave, can you open your mic, please? Yes. Yes. I'm gonna spotlight you. Can you just say what this morning means to you?
Good morning, Facebook. Everyone in Barbados and across the world, wherever you're found, this morning we are looking at colonialism and the impact on the effects on the Bajan psyche. And this morning we've been blessed to have two individuals who are practitioners in messaging. These gentlemen are messengers, and when it comes to speaking into the minds and the hearts of people in general, they have had years of experience. And the reason why they're here is because they have that experience, and they have a voice, and they have a message, they have something to say. And as we go through this season where Black lives matter, and where we are promoting the need and the call for the recognition of the importance of Black people on the face of the earth. Our history is important. Our giftings and our talents is important. Everything that we do as people of African descent is important. There are things in society that seem to say that it is not. And for years, things have been happening around us that seem to say that we are not that important. We are a second fiddle, but we know that that's not true. So this morning, we have two gentlemen here who have their views on this topic. How has colonialism had its effect on the Barbadian psyche, the way, to break it down, the way we think, you know? So we are glad to have them this morning.
Right. Before Dave, just before we introduce them, there is a video that I want to show our audience. Okay, so just let's just hang on a little bit. Okay. And I'm gonna, because we're not yet at 9, and we told the people 9.
That's true.
So yeah. So let me just we have a video that we want to show, and it's coming up very soon. Very soon. In the meantime, people share.
I, the barefoot heiress and major architect. I hear there's a dust storm coming to the Caribbean. A huge dust storm from the Sahara. How did the dust from the Sahara reach the Caribbean so quick? That means Africa is closer than they tell you. Question everything. Everything is a blasted lie. I had an auntie that worked for the airline, Air Jamaica to be specific, for many years. And right before she retired, the pilots told her, direct flight to Africa is only 3.5 hours from Barbados. So why we have to go to Europe? For go Africa? Why they send us to Italy and London and Europe? For go we over here so? For go Africa so? You have a question that? Yes, my beloveds. 3.5 hour flight. That's what the pilots told us. Directly from Barbados. So we should be focusing on setting up a hub in Barbados so that we have our own plane. Why are the airlines, Ethiopia Airlines, flying up in Europe? Ask yourself that. Why is Air Ghana and all these other West African airlines picking us up in the West, taking us up, way up in Europe, to sit down for hours and hours to go to Africa, when it's only 3.5 hour direct flight from Barbados? Is it something they don't want us to see over the sea? I currently see they are making money, currency, off of our ignorancy. So get with it. Question everything. This is the time of revelation. You know, see what I go on. Dash with everything you learn and start relearn. How about we get some pilots and set up a hub in Barbados so that we can have direct flight to Africa? Because our indigenous people used to trade with the motherland for many years. Did you know there's a trade winds that even the dolphins follow? That our ancestors told us when they put their canoe and their boat, it took them directly to Africa. You don't even need a sail on your ship. How did them slave ships used to travel so quickly over here? Back then, they didn't have the technology we had now. So how did slaves so-called reach over here so quickly? Because Africa is closer than they're telling you. Because the Mercator map that they teach us in school is a bunch of filth. Look it up. Question everything. Relearn, reteach, scrub your brain, scrub your brain. Nothing wrong with brainwashing, see? Nothing wrong with brainwashing. If you wash your brain for come again. Come again, selector. Stop lying to the people and teach the children the truth. Africa is closer. Let us do that, a project. Let us consult some pilots that are on our side. So let us research and learn. How far is Africa really from us if the dust storm is coming to the Caribbean from the Sahara? I'm ready to tell you. I give you homework for do. Put your comments below. All right? You may know some pilots below. I love your Rastafari TV. I'm only here to stir up the water.
Okay. So just so very important. So very important this morning. Okay, so we're gonna get started. I see people are still sharing. And the word is getting out that because we told them 9, so I know people are actually waiting on for 9 o'clock. It is 9:03 at the moment, and we're waiting, to get some more people on. In the meantime, let me just give a little background and some definitions before we start. As Dave said earlier, we'll be talking about colonization and the Barbadian psyche. And we'll be looking at how this factor into the call for the removal of Horatio Nelson statue. Some definitions. Colonization is the action or process of settling among and establishing control over the indigenous people of an area. The action of appropriating a place or domain for one's own use. This is all from Wikipedia, Google, thank God for Google. The ideology of colonization, what is that? This is based on the doctrine of cultural hierarchy and supremacy. The theory of colonialism is a domination by a metropolitan center which rules a distant territory. There's a destruction of cultural values and ways of life. A colonial mentality. This is the internalized attitude of ethnic or cultural inferiority felt by people as a result of colonization. It corresponds with the belief that the cultural values of the colonizer, that they are inherently superior to one's own. The psyche refers to all, what is a person's psyche? It refers to all of the elements of the human mind, both conscious and unconscious. In colloquial usage, the term sometimes refers to a person's emotional life. Now I'm going to ask Dave Weeks, another son of the soil of Barbados and who has been heavily involved in culture and the arts for the last 20 years, to give us formal introduction of our esteemed guests. Over to Dave Weeks.
Okay, good morning again, and thank you for joining us. It's a privilege and an honor to have you join us this morning, and we appreciate your presence on this important event, should I call it, web event. We have two important sons of the soil, Barbadian soil. And the first one is Dr. Anthony Gabby Carter. Born in Emerton, Barbados, Dr. Anthony Carter was given the nickname Gabby as a child, and first had success as a Calypsonian in 1968, when his heart transplant won him the title of Barbados Calypso Monarch. He won the title again in 1969 with Family Planning. In 1976, his Licks Like Fire gave him the first in a string of victories at Crop Over. He was awarded the Folk Singer of the Year for 3 successive years, from 1977 to 1979 for Riots in the Land, Bridgetown, and Bajan Fishermen. In 1979, he won the Crop Over Road March title with Burn Mr. Hardin and went on to tour Cuba. Gabby courted controversy in 1985 with Cadavers, a commentary on the Barbados government's decision to allow dead bodies from the US to be stored on the island. He continued to produce more controversial material, including The List, which deals with AIDS, Jack, which criticized the local tourism industry for giving preferential treatment to foreign visitors, and Boots, that you heard this morning, an attack on the government's assistance in the US invasion of Grenada. He won the Calypso title for a third time in 1985 with West Indian Politician. He went on to win the Calypso Monarch title on 4 more occasions, in 1979, 1999, 2000, and in 2010. In 2004, he was named Cultural Ambassador of Barbados. In 2007, Gabby was named a Nigerian chief in a service at the Sons of God Apostolic Spiritual Baptist Church. Gabby, who had recently visited Nigeria, was given the name Omowali, which means son, or son has returned. In November 2011, the mighty Gabby was one of many Barbadian entertainers shown on the Where in the World is Matt Lauer segment on NBC. And in 2012, he was awarded an honorary Doctor of Letters degree by the University of the West Indies, our own University of the West Indies. And there's so much more that can be said about Gabby, but we just pulled a small segment of his bio to share with you this morning, to give you an idea of who we are speaking with this morning. And secondly, I want to introduce to you Mr. Adrian Green, another son of the soil. Adrian Green is an African from Barbados. He is a performance poet, columnist with the Barbados Nation newspaper, father, and an educator. Adrian is also a gold award winner in the Barbados National Independence Festival of Creative Arts, as we call NIFCA. He's also a three-time Barbadian slam poetry champion and a two-time winner of the Emancipation Roots Experience show. He has released 2 albums of poetry, Random Acts of Conscience and Hard Ears. Adrian creates lyrics, 1, to reinforce patterns of thinking and behavior in himself, interesting. 2, to effect changes and thinking and behavior in listeners. And 3, for the fun of it. That's Adrian Green, a man that we as Barbadians know and appreciate deeply for his biting lyrics and his riveting messages. So I present to you this morning, Dr. Anthony Godby Carter and Mr. Adrian Green. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you very, very much. And we're going to start this morning off with Dr. Anthony Carter, or Mighty Gabby, as we affectionately call him. And this morning, I want to start off. Yes, good morning, sir. Good morning. Good morning on this Saturday morning. How are you feeling? How are you? We can hear you.
Good morning.
Good. Your mic is good.
How are you?
I am good, sir.
Well, how are yourself? I am wonderful.
I am wonderful. I was getting ready and I was listening to your song, Jack. And I was telling the audience that is such a protest song, you know. It gets me all excited, you know, and it's really, I really want to understand, you know, what was going on in your mind when you wrote that song, even before we touch anything else, because it is so energizing. It is so, it's a protest song. That's as much as I can, that I could say about it. Can you tell me what was happening in your mind in that time? Here you were coming up against, you know, is the white businessman, is Jack. What was going on in your head, Gabby?
It's not just white businessman. I mean, the Barbadians have a tendency not to know what is white from what isn't white. He is a mulatto, so to speak, looks like a mulatto to me. And he was the head of the chairman of the Barbados Board of Tourism at the time. He was also the lawyer for many hotels in this country and other big businesses. And so he was a very powerful man. And I remember I read in the newspaper that he had said, you don't know why the Barbadians are making such a fuss, because the hotel owners have the right to bring their property down to the high water mark, that it was the law. That's a common law, that's not a real law. But anyway, they utilize it at the time and still do today as a law. And I objected to it. So I called him. I managed to get hold of his phone. And I said to him, Jack, he said, what is honor? I said, depending on how you react, it would be an honor. He said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I'm seeing here that you are saying that the hotel owners have the right to bring their property down to the high water mark. And he said, yes, I didn't say that. That's the law. I only regurgitating what is a fact. I said, yes, but Jack, have something to ask you and then something to tell you. Which you want first? He said, well, go ahead and ask me. And I said, as a lawyer, do you believe in justice? And he said, that's rhetorical. I mean, of course I believe in justice. I said, but how can you believe in justice and seemingly endorsing this notion that the property owners have the right to bring their property down to the high water mark? I said, technically you're saying that the beach don't belong to us, the native people of this island, the vast majority of the inhabitants. At that time, we were about 93%. I think we were 92 now. We got less, but we are still in the 90s. And I said, but Jack, I will let you to withdraw that statement. He said, how can I withdraw it? I represent most of the hotels, and I'm the chairman of the board of tourism, and I stand by what I have said. So I said, so the newspapers quoted you correctly then? He said, of course they did. I said, well, I want you to know something. If you do not withdraw that statement, I am going to immortalize you in song. So he said, you got a lot of money. Yeah, your friend Eddie Grant got a lot of legal representatives to defend me if such a thing were to occur. And I said, no, if it will occur, it will. Once you do not, I asked him for the last time, are you going to withdraw that statement? He told me no. I said, well, look out for the song. He said, Gabby, no song can't do nothing to me, man. Like I told you, make sure that it is legally within the boundaries, I said, Jack, I want you to know another thing. I don't care if I go to jail for this song. This is the rights of the people of Barbados that you're trampling on. And I will always stand up for the rights of the people of Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean, be it English speaking, Dutch speaking, French Caribbean. I consider myself as a Caribbean person. And therefore, I have to stand up for that. And I will
and that's how you wrote the song. And that's so, and I mean, and the rest is history. Look at what is happening. Look at what is happening. I mean, we have been, people have used that song as a protest
the thing
song.
about it is that I have to tell the story. Yeah, I have to tell the story as it is. I went there, and he told me, man, I write this song called Jack. I said, yeah, let me see it. So I read it.
I think we're losing you a little bit there, Gabby.
Gotta be a song with fire. Can you get to have a show?
Gabby, we're losing you a little bit. Can you hear me? We're losing you a little bit.
Okay.
Only because of the
can you hear me now?
Yes, this is better. It's much better.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're having a little technical. We're on this side. On this side, what's happening? It's just dragging. I think it's the bandwidth. So let's go on mute for a little bit, and let's wait and see what happens. We're going to switch over to Adrian and then come right back to you, okay? Because we wanted to hear what you're saying. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay. No problem. Adrian, Mr. Adrian Green, can you unmute? There's a call in this country to remove Nelson. And my question to you is, do you see a correlation between the preservation of Nelson and the preservation of colonialism? This is Sir Mr. Adrian Green.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
there's definitely a correlation between the preservation of the Nelson statue and the preservation of colonialism. So you read a definition earlier, and I can't remember if the definition that you touched on mentioned this. But one of the things that is missed is that colonialism is only possible with the collaboration of the people who are colonialized. In order for you to colonize a people, you have to get into their heads, get into their minds. You have to colonize their psyches. Until then, you are not a colonialist, you are an invader. You have the people captive. It is only when the people accept the captivity as their natural state of being that you can say that you are fully, fully colonized. So for instance, you have in Palestine the situation with the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And we don't refer to it as colonization because the Palestinians haven't accepted it. They're still fighting. So there's a very important psychological aspect to colonization that we miss to our peril. So that when these countries, these islands in the Caribbean get flag in what we call flag independence, a lot of people thought that colonization was over. But if you pull down the British symbols from the sky and you leave that symbolism in your hearts and minds, the job is less than half done. So taking down Nelson is correlated to the persistence of colonization, not that taking down that statue will end colonization. But when we get to the point where Barbadians recognize that they ain't had no right there, and they cease to accept its presence as normal and natural, we will know that we have really, really taken some steps towards rooting colonization out of our hearts and minds. For as long as we can pass that statue in town and not be offended by its meaning, or not feel like it is out of place in a free state of free people, we know that colonization persists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really deep because we have to understand that it's something that's internal, and as you said that unless the people accept it, it's an invasion. But we are what is happening is that we have given ourselves over to it. And as you said, taking down, it's more than we're hoping that its statue is taken down, but it's much more than that. Let's see if we can get Mr. Gabby Carter, if it's okay technically now. Can you hear me, Gabby? Mighty Gabby, can you hear me? Can you unmute? Can you? Yes, he's unmute. And we want to ask him when that happens, the same question. And if you're watching, we do have some spoken word that we're gonna. Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing. Hopefully, we don't have that slur happening. And so the question I wanted to ask you the same question that I asked Adrian about the Nelson statue. The correlation between the Nelson statue and colonization, is the need to preserve Nelson and colonization and preserving colonization. Is there any correlation between the two?
There is a deep correlation between the two. Nelson represents what England was at that time. England was a place that enjoyed the fact that they were making money from slavery. It wasn't like a thing of, oh my goodness, so sorry for these people. No, it was like, good, we got some more of them, and let's deal with it. And so when you have people like Nelson or Edward Colston, Francis Drake, and all those other demons, you have a problem. And Nelson said that the sun will never set on the British Empire, and that he don't understand what nonsense people like Wilberforce and those guys are doing. That England, Britain will always indulge in slavery, and he was all for it, and he would fight anybody who tried to see that it was ended, because as far as he was concerned, he doesn't want to see the day when slavery comes to an end. Furthermore, that man did not like this place. Some people say he came once, some say he came 3 times. But there's a known fact that when he did come to Barbados, he said it was the worst place he had ever visited. And the last time he came, he did not get off the boat at all. So you're looking at a man who hated Barbados, and yet we have him lionized at the top of our main street, Broad Street, blocking the traffic every day, um, claiming that, oh, it's historic and why throw away your history? We're not throwing away the history. We're making history. And when we make history, we make it in a profound manner. So what we do, we move Nelson from his current place, because that space is reserved for heroes of Barbados. And he was not a hero of Barbados. He was a so-called British hero. And even in that sense, technically, he is not a hero. He was a villain. He was not a good person at all. So therefore, how can we lionize a man like that? They had rumors that he was a pedophile, for heaven's sake. I have nothing against gay people, but it is known that he was gay. He does not represent Barbados at all. And he's an artifact as far as I'm concerned, and he should be where artifacts are kept. Monuments are reserved and placed for heroes of a country, not a man who was a villain, a terrible, terrible person in his personal life, and a warmonger, and never did anything for Barbados. And then they have the skeptics who say, oh man, if Nelson didn't fight and win the battle at Trafalgar, we'll all be speaking French. Do I care which European colonial language I speak? I am not concerned with colonial languages, and to that extent, I wish I could speak an African language, but they never allowed me when I was going to school to do so. And in my old age now, I don't know how I could go learning.
Okay, so we have Gabby. Gabby, 1 second. We want to hear what you have to
love
say.
And deep respect for every single African language. And
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to mute you, and because it seems like whenever it goes on for a long time, so we're going to mute you and we're going to come right back to you, because we want to hear what you have to say. It's just so powerful. People are responding online to what is happening. Oh yeah, we heard majority of it. It's just the end. Majority of it is just the very end. So let's go back on mute again, and then we're gonna come back to you. All right. Mr. Green. Oh, Adrian, people are saying they could sit and listen to you guys the entire day. That's what people are saying right now online. I want you to talk about the Barbadian psyche. You're a Barbadian, and colonization. You were born here, lived here, and what what's happening there? Because I'm Caribbean. I'm Caribbean, born in Jamaica, married to a Barbadian here in Barbados, and sometimes it's just I don't really get it. With just some of the comments that you hear, etc. And in terms of the Barbadian psyche and how much we have, it seems like, as I said, this is a little England. Sometimes it appears to me that we have it a little more than other people. And so I just want to hear from you. What is your thoughts on that in terms of the Barbadian psyche and colonization?
So, Marcia, for my one part, the Barbadian psyche is an African psyche. Let me back up. It is imprecise to talk about the Barbadian psyche. In this little 166 square mile rock, we have several psyches. So there's no one Barbadian psyche, there are Barbadian psyches. What Barbados represents to me, Barbados for me is a microcosm of Africa. If you look at Barbados, the map of Barbados, it looks like Africa upside down, Africa inverted, like a mirror image of Africa. And what Africa is the continent with the most diversity on the planet. Genetic diversity, biological diversity, cultural and social diversity. And as Gabby mentioned, when you meet many Africans, they speak 6 and 7 languages. Because in one so-called country in Africa, you can have several different ethnic groups, all having their own language. That country may have been affected by different colonizers at different points in time. So you meet Africans speaking several languages. Africa means diversity. And in Barbados, you walk the street. If you go to Ghana, you see Africans on the street, all black people. But you see a particular phenotype, a particular look of black people on the streets of Ghana for the most part. You walk down Bridgetown, you see Africa represented from Cairo in the north all the way down to Cape Town in South Africa in the south. So that's the first thing. There's no one Barbadian psyche. Understand that all, if most, if not all of those psyches are African psyches. Wherever black people, so-called black people, have been touched by the colonizer, their psyches have been affected. Depending on the particular history of that place, the psyches would have been affected in different ways. So let me just finish off with a story. I was in Omfra's shop in Pelican Village, Omfra's craft shop, and 2 Haitian American ladies came off a cruise ship and wandered into the shop, and they were livid. They were livid at the treatment that they had received so far in Barbados. And Omfra and myself and the others who were there were very apologetic because we know how it could be as a black tourist in Barbados. And as you said, sometimes in Barbados it comes like the most colonial of Caribbean islands, right? And these ladies were livid, and we were embarrassed, and we were sorry, we were apologetic. But after a while, they went on and they went on, and they talked about how when they go back home, they can write letters and they can do this and they can do that. And I had to tell them, but wait though, you need to hold up and back up a little bit, right? Because y'all are Haitian Americans. And not only were they Haitian Americans, they were well-educated Haitian Americans already. I think they were both college professors. And I had to tell them, but hold up, man. I understand that you had a bad experience here, right? But you should understand this thing, given your level of education and your level of experience and your level of traveling. You know that wherever we are in the world, when I say we, I mean Africans, whether it's Latin America, Central America, the Caribbean, wherever, we have problems, we have issues, we've been affected. And I have spent so much time defending Haiti to Barbadians who don't understand the situation that Haiti is in and why Haiti is in the situation that is in. Barbadians who want to say Haiti is this and that, and say they will never go to Haiti and they don't like Haitians and this and that and next. As an educated African Barbadian who understand the thing, who understand colonialism and what it has done and what it is doing, we got to be patient with one another, right? And the same thing, I have spent a lot of time defending Jamaica and Jamaicans to Barbadians who don't understand why Jamaica is in the situation that it is in and why Jamaicans may be the way they are. So the onus is on those of us who have come to a certain level of awareness, who have come to a certain level of understanding of what colonialism is, what it has done, and what it is still doing, to relax a little bit and give each other a little break. Use some intelligence and common sense in our assessment of each other and assessment of the situation, because all of us have been touched and all of us bear the scars.
Thank you. Thank you so much, because we definitely have the same thing happening, in Jamaica, on every island. I mean, we everywhere. We see it. We see it in Africa. Look at what's happening in Africa. Presently, I was when we were in Ghana, filming Joseph. We saw that on almost every vehicle on the road was a picture of white Jesus. Some of the times driving, I had to close my eyes. I was just like, why is this happening in a Black country? So this thing is not just a Caribbean thing. It is something that has affected Black people everywhere. And there are people who say, why are you doing this? No, why? It seems like you are against a certain set of people. It's not. We're not against any particular set of people. What is happening is that for years we have been so downtrodden, and we have so much has happened to our minds that we have to spend a little time now and do a little TLC. We have to take some time and take care of ourselves and try to pull ourselves up. And so people don't understand why they want to hit this thing down now. And no, we're coming into a knowledge of who we are. That is what is happening. And as Adrian has so well put the whole thing, it's affecting all of us. And so that is what is happening now. I want to, before, I know Dave has a question, but let me just ask Gabby, Mighty Gabby, a question here, because we were speaking the other day and you started to talk to me about the process of enslavement. And I'm going to push it and talk about the process of enslavement and colonization. In your mind, what can you take us to what that process is or was of enslavement and colonization? Unmute, please. Unmute, please. Okay, Gabby. Okay, unmute. We want to hear what you have to say. People are eager to hear what it is that you have to say. Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, clearly.
Okay. Wonderful. What has happened here in Barbados is that many people, and some of them are highly educated people, you will hear them wrongly say things like, when the slaves came to Barbados. And I always try to correct them and tell them that not even one single slave came to Barbados. None. And they will look at me and shock, what do you mean, Gabby, we had slavery? I say, yes, but you don't understand what I'm trying to say. Let me explain it to you. You cannot enslave a people or a person by putting chains on their necks and their feet and hands. That's bounding them. That's not enslaving them. The way you enslave a person, not the way, the ways. There are three ways that you enslave a person. You take away their culture, you take away their language, and you take away their religion. Once you have those three taken from that person, then you can enslave them easily. It's not a fight anymore because they have nothing to hold on to. Even here in Barbados, let's say that tomorrow the Chinese came for rations or something and decided, okay, Barbados, as from now on, you'll be all speaking Chinese, you're all speaking Russian and so on. And please don't go in those churches saying you had hallelujahs and amens. That is over with. And you see that drum that you like so much and that crop over you like walking up and thing, no more of that. And do not play those songs on the air either. That's enslavement. Right there and then, we would become slaves to them and their system, their language, their music, their art, their drama, their way of teaching, their academia. Everything would be transformed and altered, and we will become slaves. And that's what happened eventually. Remember, our people came here and they were doctors, they were carpenters, they were masons, they were great architects, etc. And furthermore, our people were always a strong and brilliant people. we gave the world all 7 liberal arts. I don't know if out of my head I can remember all one time, but I do know we gave them philosophy, architecture, music, linguistics, science, astrology, and another one. And so I am saying that we have to understand where we come from, who we are. We are great people. You know, people like to talk about Barbados and the people of the Caribbean from a slave perspective or from when slavery began, or no, we're going back thousands and thousands of years. We teach them music. We taught them mathematics. The first known mathematician was a man named Imhotep. He was the first. And then Pythagoras wanted to learn philosophy, which is the mother of all disciplines. Always remember that. Philosophy is the mother of all disciplines. When Pythagoras wanted to learn philosophy, he went to Europe's first philosopher, a man named Thales. And Thales said to him, look, I'm an old man now. Do as I did, man. Go and be taught by the Africans, meaning the Egyptians. So if he's Europe's first philosopher and he's sending Pythagoras, he heard of Pythagoras theory and theorem, etc. He's sending Pythagoras to the Africans to learn. Then where did philosophy come from? Obviously Africa. And philosophy has 2 roots: philo, meaning follow, and sophia, meaning wise. So philosophy means follow the wise. And the Egyptians had written down on papyrus and stone thousands and thousands of years before these Greeks came what the wise does. The wise walk this way, talk this way, eat this way, drink this way, worship this way, born this way, die this way, live this way, you know, worship this way. The Egyptians had everything down in a system called the mystery system. You know, you can get a lot of that knowledge from a book called Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. It would really re-educate you as to who our people are. And furthermore, Marcy, if I may make this point, the Greeks were banned from entering Egypt for 5,000 years. And then they were permitted to come for purpose of the education. And when they came, they were fascinated. But they went back and said to Constantine, who was their king at the time, hey, look, man, they got us in everything, in roadways, in architecture, in carpentry, and everything. But the one thing they don't have is an army to match us. We're going back for them. And they went back, invaded Egypt, took out all the important books, burnt the rest, took these books back to Greece, and start calling some of those Greeks philosophers, including Plato, Socrates, Isocrates, etc. There are no philosophers. They are all thieves, thieves of African philosophy.
Correct. You know, this is why you're Dr. Anthony Carter and you're teaching this morning. And one of the things we want to talk about is the effect of colonization on our education system. And I think that that's something that we want to touch on. Right after, Dave has a question for you.
Yes, both Adrian and Dr. Carter, you spoke. Adrian spoke explicitly about normalization, and Gabby spoke the same. He didn't use the word normalization, but same thing, using the three points you made. Can you tell us what were the tools of normalization that were used to institute the normalization? What were the tools that the planters, the Europeans, the colonizers, what were these tools that they used to cause us to believe that what we are doing is normal, and therefore to accept our position in life? And I'm asking that question with the purpose of helping us as people to understand to look out for these tools and to identify them and to see them, and therefore be able to understand that it's not normal and try to, and continue the process of reversal of what has happened. What are the tools of normalization? What did they do? What are the things that we see in society that we claim as normal, but aren't really right? What are these tools of normalization?
The tools of normalization are simple. Like I said before, if you take away a people's language and give them yours, that's a tool of so-called quote unquote normalization.
How do they do that? How do they take away our language? What happened?
Well, they forbid you from speaking it.
Mm-hmm.
If you were seen or heard speaking that language, whatever language it was,
mm-hmm.
whether it be Igbo, whether it be Yoruba,
mm-hmm.
whether it be Ashanti, you know, whichever language, you were not warned, you were beaten, punished, so that you don't get the chance to speak that language. And even though they had taken away the religion, what they did was forbid us from worshiping with them. So that for a long time, Black people, African people could not go in the church at all. They were forbidden. Not only that, they had passed a law. It wasn't a saying, it was actually on their statutory books that said that we were 2/3 human. We were not human beings. They said that we were not human. We who were so brilliant, who were far superior to them in terms of brain power. They said that we were not human, that we were animal mostly, and about 1/3 or so human. So that's another tool. So when you tell the people this over and over, they can actually start believing the lie. You know, after hundreds of years of perpetuating such a nonsensical position. And again, for the drum. The drum is an integral part of African culture in every single African country. So what they did, they took away the drum for the entire length and breadth of slavery. Another tool, brilliantly executed. And one of the reasons they did it was this, until this day. And I found out that about 9-10 years ago, I was in Ghana. And a friend of mine, he said to me, I said, this talking drums is really things you're talking because it sounds so sweet. Is he talking? He said, no, Gabby, all people could communicate with the drum. We can actually speak by the drum. I said, what? So I asked a Nigerian friend, he said, yes, we can speak by the drum. In certain villages, they still speak by the drum. So one of our own people, not surprisingly, who wanted to please the master, one day he heard the drum and he, oh, master, you see that drum? He's talking to his sister on Bailey's plantation, come on, it's impossible, Mike. It's not impossible. He just asked his sister how the baby is. What? So listen again, and he was, oh, he's just saying that they're going to soon get a little something to eat that they haven't eaten for 2 days. What? And from that time, they banned the drum, not just in Barbados, in Trinidad, in Jamaica, in every Caribbean island, and in North and South Carolina and the Virginias. So, we got to understand how the tool is utilized, how it is used effectively, and how it affects us psychologically for hundreds and hundreds of years. And you would hear people actually defending, like, man, don't move Nelson's statue. And most of them are not idiots, these are intelligent people. And they would try to bring an argument. Oh man, it's part of our culture. Nelson's statue is not part of our culture. It's a disgrace. It's a blockage, not just a physical blockage of Broad Street. It's a blockage of what should emanate from us. It's a blockage of what we should believe in. Is a blockage of what is us indeed. It is a blockage of our future. It is a blockage of our education. It is a blockage of allowing our children to know that they, in fact, put us in that slavery and that it wasn't a Sunday school picnic. So when I see places like Codrington College, I get upset because Codrington was one of the top slave owners in the Caribbean, not just in Barbados.
Correct.
And he wanted to make sure that the world knows that he was a slave master. He was proud of it. But yet when he died, when Codrington died, he was such a nice man. He gave his place up so that, Barbadians can be educated and we can have the Codrington College, to continue Anglicanism. Lie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carter. We're going to ask Adrian the same question. Do you have anything to add to that, Adrian?
Believe it or not, I do. Yeah, we were very cool. I think that, so Dave asked about the tools, how they do it, and it can be summed up in two words for me: identity and culture. And they need to take away your identity, take away your culture. But taking it away is not enough, because that's very difficult, because that's your identity and your culture inside of you. So they need to replace it with something. There's a phrase that was popularized by Malcolm X: by any means necessary. But nobody don't understand that phrase like the European colonizers. By any means necessary.
Oh, Lord.
They will use even your own culture and identity against you, right? So to break it down, we have culture encompasses everything, our entire way of life. So to break it down, the main tools as I see it are religion, education, politics, and entertainment. Those are the main tools, right? So how it works is they come first as invaders. And the tactic of invaders is military: torture, rape, murder, killing, mayhem. That's the first tactic. But you can't keep doing that because people can always rebel against that. They can always know that's wrong. So you gotta get people to accept it, right? So there's a scene in Roots, a real deep scene in Roots, where Kunta Kinte is forced to give up his name and become Toby. So they get the black man, the black overseer. He refuses to accept the name Toby, which is the name the slave master wants to give him. He says, "My name is Kunta Kinte. What Toby were? Yeah, I know nothing about no Toby." And the slave master says, "Listen, you're going to accept this name or else." And he gets the black man to string him up and whip him. And while he's being whipped, the enslaver is saying, "What's your name, boy?" And Kunta Kinte going, "Kunta Kinte." So whip him again. Pax! "What's your name, boy?" And he says, "Kunta Kinte." Whip him again. Pax! "What's your name, boy?" And this goes on and goes on and goes on until Kunta Kinte can't take it anymore. And he says, "All right, you win. My name is Toby." They spoke about normalization. So they had to torture you for you to give up your name. But now, if you give your child an African name, that child is liable to get laughed at in school. So we see the process of colonization at work. But it's progressive, right? So Gabby talked about religion. And at one point in time, they wanted to keep you away from religion, because they know they got certain things in religion that can make you start feeling yourself and feeling like, well, what I'm doing to me ain't right. You understand? But so one thing to always understand is if the colonizer gave you something, is because he feel he know how to control you when you got it. So when the colonizer gave you religion, he gave you religion as it suited him, as it suited her.
Correct.
Now we have a hero called Samuel Jackman Prescott. And one of the reasons why he is a hero to us is because he agitated so that Black people, Africans in Barbados, could have education beyond religious education. Because at that time, the plantation owners were like, we ain't got no problem with them reading the Bible. We ain't got no problem learning religion, but that's the extent of the education that they should get. Keep it religious, because if they get any more education, they might get ideas, right? Prescott agitated that we in Barbados could have education beyond religious education. But remember the rule. If the colonizer give you something, it's because he feel he know how to control you when you got it. So the education that they gave us was education that suited him, that suited the purposes of colonialism. Then comes politics. Remember the rule. Remember the rule. When were allowed to participate in politics, whether we were a formal colony or not, and even to that point where we became independent, the brand of politics which we practice is the brand of politics which was given to us. And what is the rule? The rule is if they give it to you, question it, be suspect of it. So religion, education, politics, and now, and entertainment. Gabby told you we used to entertain ourselves with the drum. They took the drum away. The drum is back in our hands now. We are allowed to drum again. The beat, rhythmic music, we have it again. But remember the rule. The music and the entertainment that we have, the arts are the primary tool which one generation uses to pass on the culture and identity to the next generation. Because art is how you symbols, statues, pictures of religious deities, those are the way that you encapsulate your culture and identity so it's easily transferable to another person. So what you gotta do, you gotta replace people's symbols. You gotta replace their images of their deities with images of deities that look like something that suits them. You gotta take down their statues and put up statues that look like something that suits them. You gotta take away their music and give them music that suits them. So the lady that you played before we started said, question everything. If you are a Christian, accept this. You go to question that. Enough of what you were given does not suit you. If you are well educated, understand that unless you question your education thoroughly, you are an educated fool, because the education you were given was not meant to suit you. If you are into politics, whether you are B or D or P or C or whatever, understand that the politics that you are practicing was not designed for you. And if you accepting music or art, especially art that is mediated through big media companies and popular culture, understand that it is not designed to suit you. Now that don't mean that you got to destroy everything and pelt up the baby with the bath water. But Trevor Marshall, the great Trevor Marshall, was crying in the wilderness for 22 years about Nelson. And many of the people who are saying take down Nelson now didn't take him on 22 years ago. Why? Because their minds were thoroughly colonized. And when somebody come and tell you something that don't match with your religion, that don't match with the politics you were given, that don't match with the education that you received, that body gotta be mad. I hope that makes some sense.
Oh boy, I tell you, this is I could stay and just listen to this the whole day, because this is so important. Religion, so you're saying through religion, education, entertainment, politics, that is how the process and put that together.
Sorry, Marcia.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I can't forget this. It's very important because we will bring this to 2020. In 2020, when we appear to be free because we are free to amass material wealth, or we are free to even become the president of the United States of America, many people tell you, well, this is irrelevant. Well, there's a new tool, not so new really in the grand scheme of things, but new compared to the others. And what they have, the same way they opened religion to us, and they opened education to us, and they opened politics and certain forms of entertainment to us, they have also opened up the ability to be a capitalist. They have opened economics to us and the ability to accumulate. And you are allowed to accumulate as long as you don't mess with their system, as long as you don't mess with their superiority, as long as you don't mess with the grand hierarchy, get as rich and wealthy as you want. Enjoy yourself. So the economics today is the new religion, the new focus of education, the new focus of politics, and the new tool of colonization.
My goodness, this is really awesome. I know the people online, they're enjoying it. I see the comments. Fiona is saying that the Blacks have been betraying each other for years. She's saying this because education is so important in schools now. Marietta Carter Narcisse, who is in Florida, Barbadian in Florida, she's saying education is completely missing from the schools. With education comes knowledge and power. Fabian is saying the change in allowing religion at the end was for social control. And on that, I want to say, as Adrian and both Gabby said it, they in fact, they didn't want us to even have religion. When they gave us the Bible, they gave us parts of the Bible to read. They didn't give us the section of the Bible with Exodus in there, that to show that God, that God was against slavery and how he freed the people of Israel. And so for me, as a Christian, I understand what Adrian is saying. We are coming into a place where we understand, yes, Christianity is my faith. It's my faith, but there are some things that we need to apologize for. And there are some things that's within what we have been taught that is not correct. As he was saying, don't throw away the baby in the water. I'm not throwing away my faith. I am saying that there are things there that were taught to me as a little girl that has messed up my mind. For example, like what we dealt with last week about the white Jesus, that has messed up my mind. And when I started in Africa, I said, no, we have to do something about that, And so that is really why we have the genesis of this program. And because I see that there are quite a few Christians that are watching, and some of them wondering, what am I doing this? It's an understanding that both Dave and I, over the years, through the help of these wonderful gentlemen and others, have come to understand who we are, and want to be able to educate, to agitate, and to hopefully to liberate some minds. So that is really what is happening. So we want to go on this topic of education, right? Someone is saying, I'm crying listening to this information. Eye opener, we need to take a stand. There is just so much. Everybody is commenting on it, very, very positive comments. So we want to talk about the impact of colonization on the education system in the Caribbean. And I want to just take less than a minute to talk about Barbados in particular, because that's where I've been living for the last 20 years. And I noticed that my theater arts students who come to me to do theater arts, whenever I start to talk about history, I realize that they don't know much. And I'm thinking, what's going on? These are children from various schools in Barbados. I don't want to start to call names, because then that's another thing that they have done to us, and it's a mess. We're all messed up minds. But a lot of the schools in Barbados, I am telling you that we are no longer teaching history from first form to third form. They're allowing the students to make it. It's now an option, and you decide at third form whether you want to do history. Students don't choose history. Before, you could take history from first form to third form, and then you can choose whatever else when you get to third form. Up to this week, I'm talking to students. I teach theater arts, and I'm talking to students, and they're like, no, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We don't do history, ma'am. We don't do history anymore. It's a choice. And that bothers me. And that's something that I'm telling you, I believe that come September, we need to ask something of our Minister of Education. We need to ask something of them and say, why are some schools not doing this? When did this happen? Were we consulted? Is there a consultation? We now have to lay to the people, let the people decide about lesson. When did we decide that our first to third formers in some of the schools in Barbados would not be taking history? This is so important. And when we start to teach history again, it needs to be correct. We need to get some of these men inside the school to teach a history, and not what they're teaching about, the Caribbean and the people who came, and then they mix up their things and try to mess up our minds some more. And that's something we need to, after we get down Nelson, or while we're doing that, let's talk about education and about history. It's very important. So, you can tell I'm very fired up about that, because education is key. And when I'm talking to somebody about 15, 16 years old, and they don't know anything about the slave trade, there is a problem. We have a problem there, right? So I'm going to speak to I'm going to ask Mr. Dr. Anthony Carter to talk about the impact of colonization on our education system in Barbados. Are you there, Mr. Carter? Can you go ahead, please?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear.
Wonderful. I'll give you a personal story. I was 12 years old at St. Leonard's School, and our teacher, literature teacher, was absent. So our headmaster, we call principal these days, Dayton Griffith, taught our class. I first have to give Dayton a lot of praise, because he's the only teacher I know that any teacher that was absent, he could teach that class. I don't care if it was maths, English, geography, science, biology, literature, English language, you name it. Dayton Griffith could teach that class. So he came in, and we were like, oh my God, Mr. Griffith here now. Everybody was intimidated by him because he was a big, tall, muscular man. I think he was a former member of British Army or our own army. Anyway, he was a fit-looking man. So he came in and said, "Good morning, boys," and the usual courtesies and so on. And then he told us that he wasn't going to give us much. He wanted us to write on what we thought of Shakespeare. So everybody handed the paper. I handed him mine. And he called me back. He said, "Young man, you're the person who did this?" And I said, "Yeah. Sit down here. This is a nice copy from the Daily News," because I didn't see it in the Advocate. In those days, we had no nation newspaper. The Daily News and the Advocate. I said, "Sir, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, firstly, this is too advanced for your age. And secondly, you are here saying that William Shakespeare was a fake and a phony. I dare you prove that. And secondly, I do not mark people who get stories from other places and regurgitate it verbatim in my class. I'm giving you 0. I'll show you how the thing works. Many years were to pass, and he is at the Hilton. I'm singing at the Hilton, and he's dancing and having a good time. So I went up to him. I said, "Mr. Griffith, do you remember me?" He said, "I don't. You look familiar, but I'm not so sure." "You're the boy who wrote that Shakespeare was a fake." I said, "Yes." But how could you say something like that? And I began to explain my position, why I thought it was so. Mr. Griffith shook my hand. He said, "Son, you don't mind me calling you son. I mean, you're a big man now." I said, "Not a problem, sir. Let me tell you something. You were very analytical. And I take back my words. And I don't usually take back my words. You could ask any of my sons. I don't take back my words. But if you really wrote that and at that age, then no wonder you're writing the kind of songs that you're writing today. And I smiled. And until the day he died, he became my friend. Now, I said all that to show you how colonialism can cause one to, to be steeped in the ways of the colonialists. Steeped. When I was going to school, at primary school, we had St. Mary's School and St. Mary's Church. And there was no way that you could get away from going to church. I think it was either Tuesdays or Wednesdays, but I know once a week for sure, you had to go to church. Or it was no getting away from that. When you look in the history of the churches in Barbados, even though we had black priests at that time who were brilliant men who could preach the gospel, because they were now accepted that it is okay. You had those, the leaders in each Anglican church and Methodist church were all out of England, all of them. So I say that to say this. We have to re-educate our people. We have to let them know that colonialism is no longer the bastion of power in the Caribbean. And Barbados was a place, and is indeed a place, that was the epicenter of slavery. It wasn't just a slave place. People miss the boat there, you know. So I have to tell the world that Barbados was indeed.
I think Gabby's friends probably calling him to let him know, I seen you online.
Yep,
I know what is happening. All right, so just thank you so much, Dr. Carter. I'm going to ask Adrian to weigh in on this this question here that the people online have been asking, you know, about the colonization and our education system, the impact of it on our education system. And if you can also touch on even the, you know, as way back to the common entrance. You know, I want you to look at it holistically for us, please. Thank you, because common entrance is throughout the Caribbean. Thank you. Go ahead, Adrian.
So this is not a new problem, huh? And a lot of people, when you tell Barbadians that we have a problem in the educational system, a lot of them can't get what you're saying because they've been taught the myth that the Barbadian educational system is superior. And one of the teachers that I look up to is Amos Wilson, an African American psychologist. And Amos Wilson makes the point that you can't just say you educating people, because educating them for what? Educating to be whom? Educating to do what?
I am doing an online program. I said, Biz, I'm doing an online program, and I sent you the link.
So the understanding. That's our beloved Mr. Carter. We love him. That's all right. He's famous. So people are calling him. Yeah, no, it's live. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So understanding that the educational system that we were given was not given to empower us. What was it designed to do? Well, it was designed to help us to manage the plantation on behalf of the plantation owners. And it works. It has been working very well. So that's what we do. We are not educated to take over the plantation. We are not educated to change the plantation. We are not educated to destroy the system. We are educated to help to keep it in place. That's the first thing you got to understand. Now, at one point in time, it's deep, Marcia, and it's a question that's close to my heart because I've spent time in every single secondary school in Barbados and many of the primary schools, and I know what you're talking about, right? And you talked about history not being taught, or even if it is taught, there's a question of how it is taught. Understand this, that because economics, capitalism, making money is the new religion, has replaced everything else, you have churches, that is their focus. You have the music, you listen to the music, that's the focus of the music. You listen to the politicians, that's all the politicians then talk about GDP. So we had a minister that said he didn't really care about bringing out Nelson because he interested in putting food in people's bellies and getting them some land and thing, right? I appreciate and I understand where he's coming from. But understand this, your enslavers also were interested in putting food in your belly. Your enslavers were also interested in making sure that you had a place to sleep and some place to live, right? But when you respect yourself as a part of a real deeply large group, and when you respect your history and where you come from and your culture and who you are, you know that it is not all to a man to put food in his belly and a roof over his head, though. It is not all to a woman to make sure she can have some fun when the weekend come. Human beings are more than that. And we have philosophies, we parrot philosophies that reflect the view of us as less than a human being, three-fifths of a human being. So the slave master used to say about the Africans, man, get them some food and let them party and then gonna be good. And that's the same way many of our politicians see us today. And we have an educational system that reflects that. So you send your children to school today and you tell them, parents tell their children, don't mind the history, don't mind that subject, they're gonna put food on your table, they're gonna help you make the money, go to school and learn so you could get a good job. The subtext of that is go to school and learn so you could get a high position on the plantation. And just like in the days of slavery, the people with the high position on the plantation used to have to whip the others and keep them in line. And it is the same thing today, not necessarily literal whipping, but metaphorical whipping. So the reason why you're seeing what you're seeing, why the children don't know nothing about nothing, is because the only thing they're being educated for is to get a good job. And there's a particular way that you're supposed to be educated in order to get a good job, and it don't suit every child. So what you're having is a lot of children rejecting the educational system because deep down inside, because children ain't as perverted as we are in our brains, deep down inside, they know that this ain't making a sense. So they know that something wrong with this though, and they reject it. The same way they reject the religion that we try to push down their throats. They reject it. You gotta fight hard, hard, hard to push that in a child brain, especially today when the new forms of enslavement are more powerful, the music and the social media and that kind of thing. You have not educated your children to resist those things. You tell them go and learn English and math, and when you get older, learn to become a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. So you have those skills, doctor skills, lawyering skills, accounting skills, but you have no critical thinking skills. You have no understanding of knowledge of who you are beyond the day you were born. And thus you are easy pickings and prey for people who have the same skills you have, but they also understand who they are and what they are here for. So when I hear talk about educational reform in Barbados, I shake my head. And sometimes if I don't feel like shaking my head, I say LOL, because they still don't get it. They talk about technology now because they feel that technology is the way to empowerment now, is the way to put food in bellies and put rules over people. Yes, that is important. Just as with the religion and the politics and everything, you don't throw everything with the baby with the bath water. But you gotta understand that technology gotta get run by people though. People have to program the technology. And if we are people who are programmed by others, the technology that we create will be programmed by others, and it just like everything else, it will not be created to suit us. So we need a more holistic view of what education is and what it means.
Mm. Oh my goodness. And thank you, Adrian. And this is right across the Caribbean. I want to say specifically Barbadians who are watching, because we have people watching from the US, from Canada, from various places that are watching, non-Barbadians that are watching and commenting. And what I'm saying in relation to Barbados, I am asking everyone, please reach out to our wonderful Minister of Education. I'm not into politics. I'm not pushing any particular party. That's not what I'm about. Right now, I'm about educating, liberating, and agitating. That's what I'm about right now, because we have been downtrodden too much. And I'm going to use whether it is my films, dance, the arts, whatever it is, these forum media, whatever we have to begin to change some mindsets. And I'm saying, begin to ask our Minister of Education, knock on their doors, let them know we want to know what is happening in the secondary schools, what is going on with history. What is the curriculum? And we want that change. That's something that can be changed really quickly. It should not take very long. And by September, we need that change. We need to have our first formers. They need to understand. We have capable people. Here's Dr. Anthony Carter. Here's Adrian Green. There are other great historians, Trevor Marshall. There are others all over. I mean, I don't know all the names. So if I didn't call all the names, forgive me. But let us get going on this. This is crucial. This is a crucial thing for us at this time. Education. Very, 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 very key. I know that Dave has yes, jump in, please.
So on the idea of change, one of the quotes that has really had a big impact on me is that quote from Bob Marley that says 400 years of slavery is not wiped away so easily. Mm-hmm. So in the early days of me coming to this understanding, through persons like the mighty Gabby, through persons like Trevor Marshall, through persons like Hilary Beckles and David Comachong, many, 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 many others. And I got it. I was like, well, look, this just makes sense. We got to change this. No. But when you come to recognize how deeply ingrained this thing is and how deep it is in our DNA, right? And how widespread it is not Barbados alone. It is Jamaica, Guyana, and the African continent. In fact, in some ways, our brothers and sisters on the continent got it worse than us. So when you get to realize the depth and the width of the situation, you realize that a change gonna come, but ain't gonna come just so, right? So the first thing we have to do is understand that it must change. And I think at this point in time, I'm really enlivened by how many people are recognizing that something must change. But we gotta understand that the what must change is not as easy as to figure out how it must change. And even when we figure out what must change, figuring out how to change it is another story altogether. So you talk about the common entrance. Once we come to a realization the educational system is lacking, people want to change now. And many of them say, get rid of the common entrance. But that's a cosmetic solution. The common entrance is not the problem. It may be a very visible symptom of the problem, but the common entrance is not the problem. We need a lot more depth of thought into these things than is currently happening. And while I'm heartened by the energy and by the movement, I've been in this thing long enough to see movements rise and movements fall. People get enthusiastic about change, and then when they realize how difficult change can be, they just go on about the business and forget about it. So that's an important message that I want to send, that we're here for the long haul. 400 years is not wiped away so easily. Mm-hmm. We can go chip away at it piece by piece.
Yes, very well said, Adrian. Dave, I know, has a question. We're getting, Dave, can you mute? Thank you. Thank you so much. We're getting some questions, and I want to just before Dave asked that question, to engage our audience, and feel free to send in your questions and your thoughts. Somebody here is asking about colonization and its effect on how we embrace our features and our skin tones. Because that is part of what is happening. And people, this is a very important session for a lot of people. As I said, they're watching from various places. And I want to just throw that over to Gabby, just to talk about that, the effect of colonization and slavery on how we embrace our skin tone, that again, that I had so much trouble. I was really messed up, I'm telling you, really messed up. And luckily for me, going to Ghana just the other day has helped me tremendously. I'm just being honest with you, in accepting my skin tone and the gap in my teeth, that I months before I went to Ghana, I went to try to close it up, and went to Ghana and heard that I'm from the Ashanti tribe. I said, they said, look at your features and look at your teeth, and that is a sign of beauty. Look at me here, because I've been so colonized. I think that this is not beautiful. You see, and I'm not 15 years old, just 30. So all the all those years, I my mind have been just so warped and self-hate. I'm loathing myself. And going to Ghana for me was so significant. Doing the movie Joseph was life-changing for me, to begin to accept myself. I came back and I felt like rejection was just falling off of me. And that's part of this enlightenment that I'm having, because I'm serious. This means a lot to me as a person. So I want to ask Gabby to just, Mr. Carter, can you just talk about that a bit for us? There are people that are watching, and they want you to talk about this, our features and the skin tones, how colonization and slavery has, they have affected us accepting those things. So unmute, Mr. Carter. Okay, you have to unmute. Thank you. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much, sir.
Talking about skin tones and color, it's very interesting indeed. Malcolm X, way back when, he was saying, look at us, we're bleaching. Now, I never envisaged that Malcolm said that all in the 60s. And here in the Caribbean today, we have Black people still bleaching. I mean, and because they're afraid to accept who they are and feel proud of who they are, because no one has told them that they descended from kings and queens. I was told my whole life that I descended from slaves. I wasn't told I descended from kings and queens, but I went to Africa and I met with our kings. I met with our princesses and princes. I was fascinated because, first of all, I didn't even know that they had still been existing, not just existing, thriving, living, working, helping, because the only queen I knew was Elizabeth of London. I knew no other queen because that's what I was taught. The queen, it don't say one of the queens. She's referred to as the queen. So it means no other queen, doesn't matter. So that's the first thing. We have to get rid of that thought process. But I'd like to go back just a little bit and let us know that Barbados wasn't just a slave port. It was the headquarters, it's the first slave society in the whole world. A man tried challenging me on VOB radio, and he got it all wrong. You say, man, Barbados, man, was one of the places, man, and he's trying to defend a position that cannot be defended. The British used Barbados as the place to spread the slave market to spread it as a society all over the world. So Barbados was the place because geographically we are the closest to Africa. A little boat trip, come across the road, as our people used to do with the Indians, with the Caribs and the Arawaks. Before this guy, Cristobal Colombo, came in, and I let people to know that his name is Cristobal Colombo and not Christopher Columbus, because Italians end their names mostly with a vowel, an A, a O, or I, and sometimes an E, right? So this guy, such a liar, such a fraud, and we accepted that. And in school, I used to be taught that Christopher Columbus discovered the West Indies in 1492. What a lie. And that he was a nice guy, and oh my goodness, and he brought Christianity to the New World. And he was a murderer. He used to kill those Indians that you cannot believe, right? So he's nothing to be praised. So I said all that to say this, that when we're talking about color, the African people, as Adrian said, we have a diversity of color coming from North Africa all the way down to Southern Africa. So our people's skin colors were different. And secondly, very important point, another criminal named Oliver Cromwell. He is the one that expelled over 40,000 Africans, referred to by them as the Moors, from Scotland. And there's a connectivity between the Scottish people and the Moors. And some of these Scottish people that you see living in St. John and so on, they know their history. And it shows that our people, the Moors, were dominant in Scotland for a long time. And some of them went fishing with them, and they did things together, they built stuff together. So when they were both sent here, one as a so-called indentured servant and the other as a chattel slave, they still retained their connectivity at least in one parish, and that was St. John. So this thing about skin color and this and that, Africans have a diversity that, as it said, is nowhere else in the world. We have several languages, we have skin colors, we have hair texture, and we are a people that taught the world everything. The first university in the world was established in Africa at Timbuktu. And when I was a boy, my mother and the other women poured there, and they didn't know no better. They said, if you are so ignorant, you come from Timbuktu. And they didn't understand Timbuktu was supposed to be praised. And they were like critical of it because, again, that's what they were taught, right? So I want people to understand that skin color is very important, and that it wasn't just from the mixture of white with black. And no, it's not true. We had skin color and still do. If you look at a Moroccan or you look at a Libyan, that might not be mixed with anything, he's very light because he's living in the northern part of Africa. And the more south you get, is the darker the complexion, the nearer to the equator. And people don't understand that even the white people, so-called white people, the Caucasians, came from us with the color, because they emigrated and migrated over and over and over thousands and thousands of years further north, where there's less sun, so that the melanin disappears. And even today, if you went to New York or Canada or something like that for 6 weeks and you come back, just in that short 6 weeks, your skin will look fairer than when you first left Barbados or Jamaica or any other Caribbean island for that matter. So our people got to understand this thing with skin color and what it means. And I'm glad to hear you say, Marcy, that when you went there, it made you feel proud of yourself.
Yes.
Because a lot of our people are not proud of themselves. They're not happy in their skin. They're not happy in their complexions. They're not happy in their hair texture. They take in the chemicals and they put it in it to see if they can get out the kinks, because somebody said, oh Lord, that little hair too naughty. Oh Lord have mercy. He's a good looking little girl, but she's too dark. Oh my God. Because they're afraid of who they are. So those are lessons that has to be taught in our schools, and not just should not just be left to the parents and grandparents and aunties and uncles and cousins and nephews and so on.
Yes.
These are lessons that has to be taught so that you become proud of who you are, regardless of your skin color.
Good. Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. You know, we're all loving this, sitting at your feet this morning. And let me get to Mr. Green, Adrian Green. Can you give us some thoughts about that? We know we're kind of going over time, but people are still still commenting, etc. Go ahead for me, Mr. Green.
I have two daughters, and we've done our best to regulate the influences in their lives, and to the point where they've never been to a public school, in the public school system. We homeschool. And when my daughter was around 4 years old, someone gave her this big puzzle with princesses of the world. So I had an African princess and a European princess and a Asian, Chinese princess and a Japanese princess and a Native American princess. And as we were looking at this puzzle, my daughter looks at me, 4-year-old daughter, looks at me and says, she points to the European princess and says, "Daddy, I don't think that's a European princess though." I said, "What do you mean, love?" She said, "I don't think that's a European princess." I said, "I don't understand. What do you mean?" She said, I think that's just a princess." You understand what she was telling me? At 4 years old, even growing up in my household, you can't isolate your children, so they're around other people and they go places and things. But at 4 years old, she had already gotten the message from wherever, from whoever, that all of these other princesses were versions, alternate princesses. But the European princess was the original. That's what a rare princess looked like. 4 years old. That's how deep this thing talking about. So now she lives in my house, so I'm able to talk to her about that. But what about a 4-year-old who lives in a house with a parent who also believes that that is what a princess should look like? This thing is passed on from generation to generation to generation. And I got to commend you, Marcia, for your openness and your honesty about your own process. And you are not alone. All of us have had and are having a process. So even for myself, in homeschooling my children, because I don't want to put them in the educational system as it is, when I started to educate my children, I had to realize, shoot, I took them out of the educational system, but the educational system is not fully out of me. Because when I start to do it, I end up going back to the default of what was done to me and educating in the way that I was educated. So this is why not getting too caught up and too hyped in the fast change is necessary, because that colonialism is inside of you. It is a part of your identity, and it can take some deep psychological work, some deep reflection, and some patience with other people and with yourself in order to change it. I know that's a little aside from the physical beauty, but it is relevant.
Yes, very, very relevant. And, as a person of faith, Adrian, this is where I say that I do these forums and I also pray. I also, because I see that there is another force. I mean, that is beyond, we're not looking at, we can't just see the people, but to see that there is something evil behind the people trying to keep down this mighty race. There's something that they're afraid of. There's something that's so powerful, and that's where prayer for me is important. We're all, people watching, they do different things, but for me, prayer is key. I can remember my son that I homeschool as well, Adrian, and I was in the US and I was homeschooling my son, and again, he was about 5, and he was coloring. And he would not use the brown or the black crayon to color the people. And when I said, no, use this, he cried. Where did he get that from? He was home with us. Obviously, well, he was watching TV and all of that. And I must admit, what am I talking about? The books I was using, there were white people in the books. you know. So he, at 5 years old, he internalized that and would not use a black or brown crayon to color. That's, and people are talking, they don't understand. We have to stop. This is not about us hating any group of people. Guys, whether you're Christian, whatever you are, whatever religion you are, whatever you're we have to stop. We have a whole generation of people that we're still being destroyed. You know, it affected us. No, we're going to let it affect our children and our grandchildren. We have to stop. We have to stop, take stock, and make some changes. As Adrian is saying, it's going to take some time. And we have to be in this for the long haul. It's not that we start today and we protest today and we don't continue. We have to continue. It's a process. We must continue. We have a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts. You know, but I want us to, I know you guys have, and you're artists, and the artists protest. I see artists protest as well. And you have some of your work that you want to share with the audience. And we're going to do that this time. There is a video that I'm going to attempt to share at this time. So I'm hoping that all works from Adrian, just something very short. And then we're going to come back and have Gabby share some of his poetry with us, and Adrian some of his with us as well. Okay, so just hang on a little bit. We're going to get that happening for you in a moment. And thanks again to everyone for watching. It's been a real pleasure having everybody here on watching this morning. And we're hoping that the art that we're going to share now, because art is protest. If you're a writer, you write. If you're a singer, you start singing about these kinds of things. Filmmakers start making the films. We're going to protest through our art. We're not sitting down and taking this anymore.
What is your mirror image? What is your mirror image? My mirror image would not allow me to see men like Horatio Nelson as a hero. I don't understand how any self-respecting Bajan could stand below his image to pay homage. He may be part of my history, but he is definitely not part of my heritage. My heritage is made up of certain aspects of the past. Of the things that come before me, I seek to get a firm grasp. My task is to sift carefully through the debris of my history and find the best parts of me to salvage, and use those parts in the reconstruction of my mirror image. The rest, I stopped short of just throwing in the garbage, cause you can't really just forget. At least you shouldn't really just forget. Because when you forget, that's when you just let what happened before happen over and over and over again. So men like Horatio Nelson, I got a special corner for them in the back of my brain, locked away in a mental museum or an imaginary asylum for the criminally insane.
Check it out, guy, you're not a hero, man.
Listen.
What is your mirror image? What is your mirror image? My mirror image would not allow me to see men like Horatio Nelson as a hero. I don't understand how any self-respecting Bajan could stand below his image to pay homage. He may be part of my history, but he is definitely not part of my heritage. My heritage is made up of certain aspects of the past. Of the things that come before me, I seek to get a firm grasp. My task is to sift carefully through the debris of my history and find the best parts of me to salvage, and use those parts in the reconstruction of my mirror image. The rest, I stopped short of just throwing in the garbage, cause you can't really just forget. At least you shouldn't really just forget. Because when you forget, that's when you just let what happened before happen over and over and over again. So men like Horatio Nelson, I got a special corner for them in the back of my brain, locked away in a mental museum or an imaginary asylum for the criminally insane.
Check it out, guy, you're not a hero, man.
Yes. Wow. And you might have noticed that it was played twice. That was deliberate, because I want us to get it and not passing so quickly and you don't get it. This is very, very, very deep. A wonderful work, Adrian. I'm going to ask Mr. Carter, Dr. Carter, to share a couple of your, just at least two at this moment with us, two of your poems with us. And then we're going to, Dave has a question for us before we close. And actually we're going to go to Adrian as well, and he will share, I know he has much more on this topic in terms of art and poetry. to share with us. And so they're going to do a little performance for us here today. So over to Dr. Carter. Don't forget that you have to unmute. Okay, thank you so very much. Stay tuned. You can still share.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, of course, of course.
Wonderful. Okay. I wrote this poem, Adrian. You are one of the greatest Barbadians that ever lived. They haven't got around to you yet. Trust you me. Any show you did, or they haven't, because they have not been. They have been hearing. They haven't been listening. And so this is dedicated to my friend Adrian. I wrote it this morning, like I said before, and I like to put the times when I do things from 4:28 until 4:51 a.m. And it's simply entitled, I Remember. I remember Fontibel, Caucasians by the score, as usual acting and feeling that they were superior to us, the poor. The Herberts and the Badleys living in affluent style. Barefooted boys like yours truly, they would consider wild. No mention of the oppression they inflicted on us. No mention of racism penetrating Barbados. No mention of the dogs they trained to attack Black people. No mention of the policies that kept us unstable. A similar scenario was unfolding at the very same time in Belleville and in Strathclyde. They never saw it as a crime. They behaved as though everyone should know that it was their God-given right to keep us poverty-stricken with no relief in sight. They were in opulent houses, eating well every day, leftovers never given to the Black maids. Oh no, she had to throw them away. She, with 3 children to feed, would have gladly taken their wastes to feed her hungry children, to see the smiles on each one's face. I remember the stores in town, all workers lily white, in Broad Street and in Swan Street, and that we couldn't fight. I remember the yacht club. Tears would come to my eye. The Black yachtsmen in the proverbial pen couldn't go in. They had to sail by. I remember the police force. The chief was always white. An Englishman, quote unquote, a gentleman. They really met me hoot. The fire chief, the army chief, the police band's true leader, all white people, brutal and beetle, making Black people suffer. I remember the prestigious quote unquote schools. Things were more than dread. No matter how brilliant a Black academic was, a white man was chosen as the head. Oh, how we love to pretend this didn't happen at all. Thank God I was an eyewitness, blessed with total recall. This country was no different to South Africa in those days. The similarities were omnipresent in so many different ways. Oh, how I do remember my youth, now my September. We've come a long way. Hear what I say. Soon we'll be free at last. Yet my memory always say to me, don't ever forget your past.
This is why you are the mighty Gabby. That was written after 4:25 a.m. this morning. That was written at 4:25, and this I don't even know. I mean, this icon that we have called Anthony Gabby Carter. As far as I remember, I think he writes at a minimum a poem a day. He writes, and so this
Yes,
is
I have
what
a little goal. I have a little goal. If I may interrupt you a bit, sorry for that. I started to write just poems. I put away the songs for a little while. Started to write poems in 2017 on the 30th of August 2017. I challenged myself that I would start to write some poems and see how they come out. And something came to me and said, look, why not try to write 365 poems in 365 days? So I said, wow, that's a crazy idea, but I like it. So that's what I'm telling myself.
wow,
And I
wow.
began to write these
Well,
poems.
we're happy.
And by the 22nd of May, by the 13th of August 2018, I had completed that task 3 weeks in advance.
Wow.
And I kept on writing, and on the 22nd of May last month, I had completed 800 poems in that time span. So my objective is to write another 200 poems between now and December. The good news is that I have another 130 to go.
Oh
And
my word.
I hope I'll be able to
Wow.
complete
Listen,
that little
this is why
challenge.
he's the mighty Gabby, okay? A son of the soil, and respect you 100 and how many? 50. That's a gift. You're using your gift. And that's just awesome to help your people. And that's what, as we end this program, we're coming to the end. We're not finished yet because we haven't heard from Adrian just yet.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna hear from Adrian because of the time,
Yes.
and then just do one, and then we're gonna. Dave has something about the artists, and we're gonna close off with that. But people are asking for a number two because they have so many questions. People have questions about Black History Month and so on. But we don't have enough time to get into all of that because I told you it's an hour and a half, and we're now almost 2 hours. So I know we might have to come back at it. So you have other things that you need to get done. But I'm going to go over to Mr. Green. Adrian, can you just share one of your poems with us, please?
Just quickly before I do that, I want to say that for me, my art at least is not protest. Protest is when you're talking to the body who got the foot on your neck, get off of me. My art is, for me, is a form of education because I'm talking to my people. I'm not protesting to them. I'm sharing what I know and what I understand. So it's always difficult to do this online without feeling the energy of the people. But I can give it my best shot, all right? Africa, we love you. Cause now we understand how they've pushed and shoved you into the dimly lit corners of their history books. But we know the truth cause we searched and looked to lift our minds off of Europe's hook. And some still don't understand how much strength and willpower it took to get from under their spells and propaganda. And now them a wonder how we so proud and we daishikis and we booba. We let them know we were orphaned, but we found our mother. We've been reunited with our lost sisters and brothers. Africa stretches forth her hands to her prodigal sons and daughters, scattered across the waters in this great disaster that them call him a Alpha that was authored by those wicked, dirty, rotten, stinking hype on a Christian show, so I won't say the word. But they tried to kill every last semblance of African spirit and skill. But destiny must unfold, prophecy must fulfill. Emancipation is a mountain, it's a real steep hill. And to get to the top for we is such a thrill. That's why from Cape Town to Cairo, Barbados to Brazil, no matter where we were taken, we are African still, and we will heal those emotional scars, and we will redeem our ancestors, and we will retake our place amongst the stars, and we will reclaim everything that's ours. Africa, we love you. Done there.
Ah, whew. Oh my word, these two men. Son of the soil, Barbados. I'm always amazed at the talent that we have here. And through colonization, through the slavery and how it has affected our minds, we have not celebrated our people enough. We thank God for Rihanna and the Rihanna effect that is happening right now on the millennials. There's a whole different thing that is going on with the millennials. And one Jamaican historian, he said, I believe it's called the Rihanna effect. Something is happening to our millennials that they are not taking, they're not us. They are not us. And I thank God for it. No passivity at all. And that is the future of Barbados. And I'm excited. I want to just, before Dave asks a question, I think of Alan Emtich. I think that's his first name, the Barbadian, the young Barbadian who invented the search engine. That we could be on this internet right now is a Barbadian that went to Harrison College, that went to primary school here in Barbados, that sat on the benches, it's the same benches with everybody else. Barbadian, son of the soil, so talented, so powerful. And we want to celebrate our people as we celebrate these men this morning that we have received so much from them. So over to another powerful son of the soil, my husband, Dave Weeks. That's how come I'm Barbadian as well. So Dave, over to you, please, with your last question.
All right. It's amazing what happened this morning. And I want to culminate the session this morning with this question. It's a three-pronged question. And it is, what is your relevance to society as cultural artists? What's your relevance to society as cultural artists? How important is truth in what you do? And how different is your role from that of a politician? It's a three-pronged question. What is the relevance to society of yourself as cultural artists? How important is truth in what you do? And what's the difference in your role from that of a politician? I think, Adrian, you answered it already this morning, but I guess you could crystallize it here. Over to you.
So the first part is, what is the role of the cultural artist, right?
And the relevance of the cultural artist. Yeah.
Relevance. So like I said earlier, art is how you package your culture and transmit it most efficiently to the next generation and communicate it to other people. It is a snapshot of who you are as a people. So the artist is that. The artist is the representative, the person on the front lines of the cultural battlefield and the intercultural battlefield, an ambassador of a culture. So your art is meant to reflect who you are as a people. That's the relevance. The second part was what again?
Importance of truth in what you do. Truth.
The importance of truth.
Yes.
Now that's a deep question, which we don't have time to go into, because there's truth with a capital T, and then there's truth with a common T, and then they got all kinds of truth. Personal truth and cultural truth and scientific truth, and that's a deep discussion for another time. But truth is extremely important. But the most important truth to the artist is the truth of what is in them. So I want to say this to Marcia. Marcia, I know we have not always been on the same page on these issues, but one thing I've always respected about you is that you are determined to speak your truth, whatever it is. You know what I mean? And even if I don't agree with it, I have to respect that. And That is what an artist is supposed to do. Real thing. And the third part about how are we different to a politician, um, in so many ways. But I think the game, the arena is different. They're very, the role is very similar, but the politician plays what I would call a managerial role. The artist, to put it in the terms that people understand these days, for everybody but business and entrepreneurship and making money, the politician plays a managerial role. The artist plays a marketing role. The politician plays an administrative role. That's a better word, an administrative role. The artist plays a marketing role. To any business, to any endeavor, the communications and handling and dotting the I's and crossing the T's, both are very important. So that is a quick articulation of the difference between the artist and a politician for me. The politician administrates the culture, the artist markets the culture, both externally and internally.
Wow, excellently put. Thank you so much for that great question, Dave, as well. And I love that. One administrates and the other one markets. Gabby, over to you to answer that question. And I have a little special thing for those watching. We're going to play Gabby's Jack before we leave here today. So you can dance. I know because people watching from New York, Florida, Canada, Jamaica, Michigan, Massachusetts, South Florida. This is all the places that they're watching from. And I know that they want to hear a little bit about you, your music. This morning we played it at the beginning. So over to Gabby, and I'm going to play that before we close out. Okay? So Gabby, give us a concise version so I have time to play that music before we go out. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that I endorsed everything and the analytical way that Adrian dealt with that three-pronged question. There really isn't much that I can augment on what he has said. He has said it extremely well, and he knows what he's talking about. And that's why I love this man so much, because he's a straightforward thinker. He doesn't have that in and out business that confuses people. It's consistency, consistently good and true to form and true to himself and true to his spirit. Now, the part that I would like to deal with just a little bit is the part about what role do we play if I'm answering the question correctly.
Yeah, relevant. Yeah, relevant.
The relevance of the role that we play. Our role is so relevant that when we have long passed this earth, when we are long dead and gone, our works will live on, because we are not superficial. We don't come with the expectation we're going to make a lot of money and we're going to be rich and we're going to be this and that. That's not our role. Our role is to educate our people. Our role is to sensitize our people to who we are, where we are, and where we're going. And once you know that that is your role, then the monetary thing becomes secondary, and you understand clearly who and what is the role that you have to play for this generation, but for generations to come as well. In terms of a song like Jack, now I did that song in 1982. And most people will meet me and say, Gabby, that song is still relevant today. Or Boots, or One Day Coming Soon, or Windforce, or Emerton, or Bridgetown, because they understand I was never coming from a position of, boy, if I do this song, I can sell a real record, I can make real money. If that was my goal, I believe I would have failed miserably, because I can't get nothing out of it. That's nothingness. That's emptiness. That's just something thrown up that becomes temporary. I don't like temporary. I like permanency. I like consistency. And I like artistry. And that's our role where Adrian and I are concerned.
Yes.
Thank you, Gabby.
Oh,
Thank
my
you.
Lord. If we were in church, we say amen. Really, really awesome. So I'm going to, everybody get ready, you know, wherever you're watching from. I know especially those that are outside. I'm seeing Winston Farrell is on. Danny Hines, welcome. Great, he says, very good, Adrian. And Danny was saying something about Danny Hines. He's somebody we need to get on here too, about the artists and culture. Good to see you on, and everybody, Jeeba Reed, Christy. She's actually Jamaican, and she says, I remember Gabby's song that year. Wow. She said, something, I can't read the Bajan part of it there, sorry. but that's Jamaica, because we were listening to your songs in Jamaica. I didn't even know that Boots was your song. As a little girl, I was listening to that. I didn't know at all until when I got here and Dave told me that. So let me just set up and to make sure I can play that song for you. And it's a time you get up and move and let it move you. This one is protest, okay? This one is protest. No, that's the wrong one. That's Boots. Which one is that? Jack? Is that Jack?
While Marcia gets her technical stuff worked out, Gabby and Adrian, thank you very much for answering those questions, because I want to position the coming artists in terms of their responsibility to the public, their responsibility to the society, and whether they sing, you know, what they sing, what they produce, what they put out there. For you guys have put a lot of truth out there. Your stuff is so truthful and deep. Gabby, your stuff is truthful and it's not peripheral. It's not, not. It's very deep and cause you to think. And that's what I want you guys to pass on to the artists coming up. You know, that you also have a responsibility to the people, just as a politician does. But your responsibility is straight up truth. You know, you don't mince words, as Adrian. You don't mince words, Gab. You don't mince words, and I really appreciate that. And I want you to pass this legacy on to the next generation of artists. That was really where I was going with those questions.
Tourism vital, I can't deny, but can't mean more than I and I. My naval string, very right here, but a tourist one could be anywhere. Yes, Jack, don't want me to bathe on my beach. Jack, tell them to kick me out of reach. Jack, tell them I will never make the grade. Strength and security, build barricade. That can happen here in this country. I want Jack to belong to we. The beach is mine, I could bathe anytime. Despite what they say, I can bathe anyway. The beach is mine, I could bathe anytime. Despite what they say, I can bathe anyway.
Little boy, where you going?
I get up on the beach.
But you can't go down there, Jackson. Can't be down there.
Can't use the idiot hour. Let me tell Jack something here. Like, my mother bed there, my father bed there, my sister bed there, my brother bed there, my uncle bed there, and I got bed there. The beach is mine, the beach is mine, the beach is mine, mine and only mine. The beach is mine, the beach is mine, the beach is mine, mine and only mine. The beach is mine, I can bed anytime,
And Gabby is singing. Oops, we can't do another one. we don't have the time to do the next one. Don't have the time, but oh my goodness, this is that song charges you, and that's what we want our leaders to know, that can't happen here. That's my best Bajan, okay? That can't happen here. That thing, Nelson must go. On a serious note, that can't happen here, right? And this song energizes me, and look, we're still fighting for beach land, but we can still bathe on some parts, and we need to address that again, because they're pushing back the landmarks. And you go to the beach, watch and see what's happening. They're putting up stones and they're pushing it back, and we need to remember, this was what, in 1980s, that this man used this song to fight for this thing. Here, Adrian has his poem out, his spoken word out. Other people are writing songs. Winston Farrell, he's writing stuff as well. Listen, guys, what we're saying is that no. All 95% of us, we are saying to our Black government, we want Nelson to come down. You can put him in the museum, do what you need to do, but we don't want him there. We don't want him standing up over where our ancestors were beaten and naked, the way they were selling our ancestors. We don't want it there. And that's what this song, how it energizes me. And I just, I thank you so much, Gabby. I thank you so much. Thank you so much, Adrian, for coming on. And I'm just going to leave the last words to Dave, and then we're going to close out. And people are asking for number 2. That's what's happening. Dave, over to you.
Yeah. I think we made an indelible mark here this morning. In communicating messages, and that's what we're about: positive messages and reformation and transformation. These are things that we are shooting for. That's what we're looking for, to break up the normalcy, and let me change up things and get things happening that are in favor of us African people of the Caribbean. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Gabby, mighty, even the strongest word. I wish it was another word. Adrian, your word for me is deep. And then listen to you, I gotta think. And that's what we want people to do. We want our little children to think, and our people to think, and not just African things, not just everything that you do, every decision you make. Think about it when you go into business. Think what you're doing. When you go into the church, think about what you're doing. When you go to church and you listen to the songs, and you play the songs, and you think about what you're saying in the songs. Think about what you're being taught in school. Think. So Adrian, thank you very much for challenging us to think. And Gabby, thank you for your forwardness and your honesty and your truthfulness. I thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much, and have a great day, and God bless you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Look for us. Look for us again. We will let you know when we're coming again. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.